Thank you for joining me for another video. Last time, not last week, but last time, we talked about the confrontation where God found Adam and Eve in the garden because they weren't hiding particularly well, because all-knowing happened to know where they were. I'm sensing a little bit of confusion on Adam and Eve's part for that. So God confronted them, and he says to them, hey, what's going on, guys? Why are you hiding, right? At which point, Adam said, we will see the reason we're hiding. It's got nothing to do with, us knowing good and well that you are fully knowledgeable about where we are at any given moment. But it's because, you see, we were afraid because we're naked. And God says to them, how did you know you were naked? Who told you you're naked? Did you eat from the tree that I told you not to? And they really didn't say anything last week or last time. They get into that this week. So without further ado, there will be no ado further. Let's jump into it. Chapter 3 of Genesis, if you happen to have a copy of your Torah in front of you. And we're going to begin in verse 12. We're going to go to verse 19. So it says, Vayomer Adam, the man said, Haisha asher natata imadi, he nathnali min ha'ez va'achel. So the man says, the woman that you've given to be with me, she gave to me from the tree and I ate. It's interesting because that word here, wa'achel, I ate, and I ate, can also mean and I will eat. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Very briefly, though, because it's just kind of a small point. Vayomer Hashem Elohim, and Hashem God said, Laisha, to the woman, Mazod Asith, what have you done? As opposed to some translations will say, what is this that you have done? Which is more literal, but in my translation, it comes off more along the lines of giving her the opportunity to confess. As opposed to, what is this that you've done? God's telling her, listen, I know exactly what you did. It was wrong. Why'd you do it? Tell me why you're a dirty, rotten scoundrel of a sinner. Or it's something, But I prefer my understanding of it a little bit better. Of course I do, because everyone prefers their own understanding, right? Mazad Asit, what have you done? What Omer Haisha, and the woman said, Anachash, the serpent, the Nahash, the shaman, she tells God, he deceived me, he beguiled me, he fooled me. I was having an off day. He caught me at the right time, and so I ate. Vayomer Hashem Elohim el Nahash, and God, Hashem God spoke to said to the Nahash, to this shaman, because you've done this, aror ata mikal habehema mikal hayat hasadeh, you are cursed beyond all the domesticated animals and beyond all the wild animals of the field. Al gehonecha talech, on your belly you will go, and we're going to come back to this as well. And you're going to eat dust all the days of your life. We'll briefly touch on that as well. And I will put conflict, enmity between you and between the woman. In Hebrew, that's just how you say it, between and between. Between you and the woman, uven zar'acha, and between your children, your offspring, uven zar'ah, and between her children. And we're going to circle back to that, not this week, not next week, but perhaps the week after, when we get into chapter 4. Who? Yeshuvcha rosh, he will bruise your head, while ta Teshufenu Akiv, but you will bruise his heel, or specifically, you will bruise their heel. It's in the plural, which would indicate more than one offspring that the Nahash's offspring is going to go against. Perhaps a reference to the future Israelite nation being numerous, although we're very not. There's only something like 15 million of us globally right now. Globally, 15 million of us. Out of 8 billion, 15 million are Jews. Okay, that's a very small percentage. I just think that's an interesting statistic. El Haisha Amar, and to the woman, God said, Harba Arbe Isvonech. I guess I should throw this word in too. Waherunech Beresev Tilde Vanim Wa'al Ishech Teshukahtech Wahu Yimshelbach. So God says to her, to this woman, He says, "Listen, I'm going to increase your suffering. I'm gonna make it more painful, more suffering for you to give birth. You're going to experience hardship during childbirth. In pain, you'll bear children," He says, "but you are going to crave, desire carnally your husband, and he will rule over you," or "rule in you" is technically a solid translation of that as well. It's worth noting here, and I'm only going to very briefly mention it here, and not circle back to this, but it's worth mentioning here that the fact that God said, "I am going to increase your pain in childbirth," implies Cain and Abel were not her first children. Just going to throw that out there. That's what it implies. I'm just reading the book, okay? I'm not reading into this what I want to read into it. I'm just reading the book. I'm just telling you what the book says. And here I'm telling you what it implies. It implies very, very strongly that, yes, she knew what childbirth was like because she had had children before. I can't say that that was the case for certain. And the commentators of the Midrashim, they're all actually very silent about it. I don't know why. I just know they are. And your husband is going to rule over you. Okay, we'll circle back to that part. Ulla Adam Amar, and because, and it's funny, I was starting to translate the next part. And to the man he said, and to Adam he said. It could technically be either way, because Adam had the good luck of being named man. Imagine using slang terms in Hebrew and like, you're talking with Adam and you call him man, but he's not sure if it's like, if you're just using, slang like, "Oh, come on, man," or if you're saying, "Oh, come on, Adam." It's just kind of a funny thought. Ula Adam Amar, and to Adam, and to the man he said, Gishamata laqol ishtecha, because you've listened to your wife's voice, وتخل من העץ אשר ציוויתך לאמור לא תאכל, and you have eaten from the tree that I specifically commanded you not to eat, saying, "Don't eat, לא תאכל ממנו," that you should not eat from it. ארורה האדמה בעבורך, the ground is cursed because of you, for your sake. Be'esavon, be'esavon. I can't read tonight. Tochlena kol yemechayecha, and you in suffering, you are going to eat of it all the days of your life. V'chos v'dardar, what a funny word. V'chos v'darar tasmiach lach, thorns and thistles are going to sprout forth for you. V'chalta and you're going to supplement these thorns and thistles, the very basic nutritions that you get from these thorns and thistles, with, he says, the the grass or the herbage of the field, wild growing edible plants. בזבת עפיך תאכל לחם עד שובך אל האדמה כי ממנה לקחת כי עפרת ואל עפר תשוב. He says, by the sweat from your face, you're going to you're going to eat bread. It says bread. It probably means all food, probably not just bread, but it says bread. Until the day that you return to the ground, because from it you were taken, because you are, because you're dirt, because you're dust, and to dust you shall return. Okay. Because you're dirt. Sounds like God is really kind of letting him have it, really just sort of being not nice, right? Now, let's jump back to the beginning of it. So I've heard people saying that Adam was trying to shift the blame off of himself for his part in the sin to his wife. I don't see that. And likewise, they say, Adam or Eve rather was shifting the blame off of herself and onto the Nachash. I don't really see that. I see God showing up and saying, "What happened? How? Listen, you. Who told you you were naked? Did you perhaps, maybe, possibly, on the off chance that this may have happened, did you eat from the tree? I specifically told you not to." And Adam says, God, let me tell you a story, right? So first, this woman, gorgeous woman that you've given me, by the way, she gave me some of this fruit, right? And so I ate it because, she gave it to me. So, what am I going to do? Tell her no? And God's like, okay, yeah, that's reasonable enough, right? So let's move on to Eve. So, what gives, man? What are you doing here? What have you done? And she says, well, listen, so fun story, this Nahash, right, this shaman, he fooled me. He beguiled me. I was weak. It was I had a moment of weakness. So he fooled me and I ate. And God said, yeah, okay, all right, that's reason enough. All right, that's understandable. I get it. I'm God. I get everything. I get it. Then he goes to the Nahash. This is my favorite part. Goes to the Nachash and he doesn't say, so what gives, man? What's going on? Why are you telling people to eat fruit that they shouldn't be eating? No, God instead says, listen, dude, because you've done this, I'm cursing you above every single animal that's out there. Okay, you're going to go about on your belly. So let me explain that. I mentioned that we were going to circle back to that, and so we are. Here we are, and I'm still not prepared mentally for it, but that's okay. Let's do it. The words used here, gehuncha, which literally does mean your belly or your underside, right? It implies something that is low to the ground, or at the very least, toward the ground. He says you're going to go about in this manner to it, right? So he uses the word al gehoncha, on your belly. Telech, you're going to go. But remember, this is a man. We're not talking about a snake that suddenly has his legs chopped off. Okay. What is the one reason that a man at that time would go about, belly facing the ground? Well, he's looking for food. He is farming. He is harvesting wild foods. God is exiling him, leaving it to Adam to do it, because Adam, as the leader of his tribe, is as the male authority in the tribe, is charged with casting him out, which he does. It's not really there in the text, but it's implied. But the word that's used here, al gehoncha, on your belly, telech, you shall go, could just as easily be translated, and it appears to be closely related to the phrase al gehoncha telech, right? Sounds the same, spelled slightly differently but pronounced the same, which in this case means on the river Gihon that you came on, go. He's exiling him back the same way he came, along the river Gihon. Now, I don't know for a fact that Gihon was the river that he came there on. I'm just interpreting the text here a little bit, okay? Not like earlier where I'm just telling you what the text says. Okay, here I'm actually interpreting it. I'm assuming that this Nahash, this shaman, was probably not part of this tribe originally, and he just sort of showed up one day, and they kind of adopted him. They kind of accepted him. He taught them some form of religion, and then now Adam is having to exile him. And he's telling him, listen, you're going to go back along your Gihon, your river that you came here on. I'm sending you back that way. I'm not going to kill you because God is not killing us. But I am going to exile you. You're not welcome here anymore. We don't like your kind. That sort of a thing, right? So I'm imagining, in the old days, back when you could say things like that and not get in trouble for it, you could refuse service to anyone. In the US, you really can't do that anymore, because somebody's going to cry racism, and you're just like, dude, we're the same race, man. What, you can't, how are you going to accuse me of racism against my race? It happens. It actually does happen. I'm off topic. What was I talking about? Yeah, so one of the things that's really interesting, though, I think, is that, and I should have mentioned this before, but I'm kind of a little bit out of order of my notes, but that's okay. The interesting part is where Adam says, yeah, so my wife gave me some of the fruit and I ate. Well, it can mean I ate, and it can mean I will eat. And the same thing for Eve as well. She says, yes, I ate. It could also mean I will eat, to imply, listen, if given the chance, we would probably do this again. Which is part of why this Nahash has to go. Just has to. Because otherwise he's going to lead them back into sin, back into committing the exact same sin that they did commit. And one thing that we know about this particular sin is that Adam and Eve never appear to have done it again. So in a way, I mean, even if we're saying that Adam was absolutely blaming Eve for it, trying to shift the blame from him to her, really, we can credit Eve with making sure that they never do it again, because they never do it again. And so in this way, she was helpful in getting them to sin. She prevented them from not sinning that same way ever again. Very much in the same way that it's helpful to, cut off a limb, to amputate a limb, to prevent someone from getting gangrene and having it spread throughout their body and potentially kill them. So what we see here, and I hate to use this as an example, is a sin for the sake of righteousness. We're seeing a case where someone does something wrong, and later on in the future, they never do that again. So, you could say that it was a sin for the sake of righteousness. It's not really how people think, which is a good thing, because otherwise you'd have people sinning everywhere all the time. I mean, you do, but I mean, you get it. You understand, right? So, look at my notes right quick. So God comes to Adam and Eve. Okay, so let's talk about God's judgment on Eve first. It's interesting, when God came to them first and asked what was going on, went to Adam, then Eve, then the Nahash. In God's judgment, he went from the Nahash to Eve to Adam. And I think that perhaps the reason for that is God's just working in a logical order, right? Or perhaps all three of them at the same time. But the text can't really communicate that. Perhaps God revealed himself to all three at the same time. They all understood him all at the same time, but the text just can't communicate that, because as perfect, as wonderful as the Torah is, it still has limitations in terms of the reader, because I can't read it and see him asking questions and punishing all three at the same time. And the text can't communicate that to me, even though that may very well be what had happened, what did happen. I don't know. I'm just guessing. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So Adam and Eve, right? So God goes to Eve and he says to her, "Listen, Eve, wonderful woman, listen, because you screwed things up with your husband a little bit, because you sinned, I need for you to understand that I am going to make sure that your pain in childbirth increases." Okay, and you're going to you're going to desire your husband carnally, but he's going to rule over you, right? God is not punishing. That's not a punishment. Oh, it's going to hurt when you have babies. Okay, so you tell that to any woman nowadays, and every single one of them will just be like, and? What's the punishment? Of course it's going to hurt, but what's the punishment? I'm squeezing a watermelon through an opening the size of a garden hose. Of course it's going to hurt. What's the punishment here? Especially when you consider that Eve appears to have been familiar with the process of childbirth, and it really doesn't appear to have been that it was necessarily painful before. Okay, well, so the reason for that is because, you remember when we talked about Adam and Eve and how they got to the garden in the first place, right? They're not indigenous to there. They're not from the garden, right? They were placed there. God put them there. So they knew what life was like outside, and then they come to the garden, right? So they are, at the very least, semi-nomadic, probably fully nomadic, but at this point they had settled. And here's an interesting bit of information about childbirth and nomads. So, in a nomadic culture, a culture that moves from place to place to place, right? Like the Bedouin, like uh, other nomadic peoples that I can't really think of at the moment. When their women go to give birth, I mean, I'm sure it hurts still, but it's not particularly difficult for them. It's actually relatively easy for them. Um, and you see the same thing in women who are in good shape, who keep themselves, in good shape. Childbirth is fairly easy for them, by comparison with their counterparts who are not in as good a shape and who uh, are not nomadic. Um, so, what is God saying when He says, "Listen, I'm going to greatly increase your pain in childbirth"? Well, He's not saying anything that's not natural. God's actually just preparing her for, listen, this is just the way things are now. You've been settled too long. You've been sitting in a town for far too long. It's no longer going to be easy for you. Childbirth is going to be difficult, and I need for you to be prepared for that. You're going to be the mother of, as Adam calls his wife in the next chapter, you're going to be the mother of the living, or the living, which is a reference to acknowledging the Creator. And we'll get into that more when the time comes. But God says, listen, you're going to be the mother of all the living. I need for you to understand that that is not going to come without pain. Even in his punishment, God is merciful here. God's preparing her ahead of time, and he's saying, listen, it's not going to be fun. Okay, I need for you to be prepared for that. But when it comes, you will be the mother of the living. It's very amazing, very exciting, right? You're going to crave your husband carnally. You're going to desire to be with your husband. I think what we're looking at here is not throughout history, marriages, especially between powerful people, were usually political in nature. There was usually very little love. There was usually very little affection at all, really, that went into it. Hence, you have an official position in the French court of the king's official mistress. Well, she was the woman that he wanted, but his queen, well, yeah, she was for giving birth to heirs. We call that a concubine in biblical language. In modern terms, we call it a mistress. But I think here the text is actually, God is actually saying, listen, you're going to love Adam. You're not just going to, he's not just your husband. He's not just a political, this is just for, mutual benefit to both of you. No, you're going to love him. It's going to be a truly beneficial relationship and fulfilling relationship on an emotional side of things, not just the physical, but more on the emotional and mental side of things. And I think that that's an interesting admission here in the text. And it's one of those that you don't actually see mentioned very often throughout the Tanakh. I mean, there are a few other times where you see, and this guy loved his wife or something, along those lines. Or in other cases, you may find like in the case of the violation of Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, she was violated. She was taken by force, and I'm using those terms intentionally so that you understand, those of you who are older, but the kids who are maybe not so old to understand that don't. When she was taken, it said that Shechem loved her. He didn't love her. He just had a biological desire that he wanted to fulfill with her. I wouldn't call that love. Um, but I digress, right? So then we come to the portion where God says, your husband is going to rule over you, to Eve. There is the possibility that they lived in a at least semi-matriarchal society, that women ruled, that women were in charge, right? And we see that in history prior to this point. And if that's the case in this particular tribe, then what we're seeing here is God saying, listen, no. You think that it could just be like, listen, you ruled before and you messed that up. Right? You think I'm really going to let you continue doing that? No. From this point forward, your husband is the ruler. God switched from a matriarchy to a patriarchy right here. It's very interesting, I think. Then we come to God's punishment to Adam, right? And he says, listen, Adam, man, you are going to work hard. And Adam's like, okay. And you're going to sweat a lot, okay? And it's only through sweating that you're going to be able to produce food, okay? And at this point, I'm sure Adam's just like, okay, but hang on just a second, God. I already do those things. But then God kind of hits him with the kicker and he says, listen, you're going to eat thorns and thistles. You're going to eat these things that you may not find particularly desirable for food, because you have eaten something that you desired for food. This tree, this grape. You're going to eat things that you don't necessarily desire, and you're going to supplement that with wild edible plants that you find here and wherever it is that you find them. So in the case of the Nahash, the punishment really was a punishment. It was a banishment. Not only that, banishment at the time, mind you, would have been something akin to saying, okay, I'm kicking you out of the walled city in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. I hate to keep going back to my zombie apocalypse thing. 3 videos now. 3 videos. I've mentioned a zombie apocalypse, right? But you kick someone out of a walled city or even out of a fortified building in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, and that's a death sentence. And that's basically what's going on here. That Nahash gets kicked out of the garden. And we don't know what time of year this is, but I imagine that it was probably right about the time when he probably should have been planting plants, planting food crops, and now he's being kicked out. So God says, listen, man, you're going to crawl around on your belly. You're going to be looking for food here and there, and wherever you find it, that's how you're going to eat. You may as well eat dust all of the days of your life after this. This is basically a death sentence. Then God comes to Adam and Eve and says, let me tell you what the new reality is going to be like for you. It's going to be tough, okay, but you can make it. It's going to be Eve. Listen, love, you're going to have babies. And Eve's like, yeah, okay, great, wonderful. I love babies. They're wonderful. They poop and they scream a lot, but they're wonderful aside from that. And the vomiting. Let's not forget the when they spit up, right? But aside from that, yeah, wonderful babies. I love babies. I've seen babies since I was a child, right? And God's like, no, but listen, see, when you have baby, I need you to know that it hurts. Okay, all right, I guess, yeah. Okay, that seems reasonable. But you're still going to want Adam. You're still going to love Adam. You're still going to desire him carnally. Okay, well, I mean, that's reasonable, especially if I'm having his babies and stuff, right? And he's going to be in charge. Well, I mean, I guess that's okay. I did kind of screw things up before. And then God comes to Adam and God says, listen, Adam, you're going to sweat a lot. Okay, yeah, wonderful, sweat. I love sweat. Look at this, though, right? So men, we're built for physical exertion, right? We are, so humans, Homo sapiens, are sexually dimorphic. Generally speaking, males are larger than females, right? There is no better way that I have to explain this to you than I am about 6 feet tall, and I once dated a girl who was 4 foot and 11 inches tall, right? So I was literally head and shoulders. I mean, she came up to like, my chest, and this is a long time ago. This is like 20 plus years ago. And she was so much smaller than me. I always felt like I was protecting her from literally everything. And that's really how men are. We like to protect things. We like physical exertion. We like sweating. We'll tell you differently, but we enjoy things that make us sweat. Why do you think men work out? Why do you think we enjoy? I love yard work. I love getting out of the house, mowing the lawn. I love that. Why? Because it gives me a chance to get out and be physically exerted. It gives me a chance to sweat, to work with my muscles, to be a primal version of me, let's call it. And God's saying, this is the new reality. I'm sure Adam's just sort of sitting in the back of the class, and he's just like, because all the cool kids sat in the back, and he's just like, okay, but like, where's the punishment come in? The same thing with Eve. Okay, so you're telling me that the thing that happens to all women is going to happen to me. Okay, so like, where's the punishment? Nahash, okay, he's getting exiled. He's gone. He could die tomorrow, and I'm okay with that, really. But like, so what's my punishment? It really seems like their punishments weren't really punishments as much as, let me prepare you for the reality that you're going to live in once you leave the garden. Now, they haven't left the garden yet, but that is actually going to happen next time when we jump back into this. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm done for this video. Perhaps next time I won't have as big an issue with recording and editing and everything that I did this time. But, it is what it is, and I'm sure there are some things that I need to get to fix the problem, permanently anyway. But B'chazrat Hashem, we're not going to have this issue again in the future. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and make sure that the notifications for it are turned on. If you are on Facebook, wonderful, so am I. Come find me. Just type into the search bar an unorthodox Jew. You can find me. It'll be relatively quickly that I'll pop up. And, come say howdy. Come drop me, what do you call them, a message. I will respond. A few of you already have, and you know that I do respond. It can take a while. I've been kind of busy lately, but it can take a while, but I will respond, I promise you. Go ahead and comment nice comments. I'll delete any mean comments, but, comment on some of the content that's on the Facebook page. You'll find that I will post some things to the Facebook page that I won't put on YouTube. So if you like a little bit of, we'll call it bonus content, Facebook, it's your best bet. Come find me. Anyways, I am done. All of that being said, until next time, Shalom.